All right, hello everybody and welcome back. Pants McGee here, and today we'll be talking about our update on our Slayer 3.28 Mirage League Holy Hammers build. It's been a lot of fun. I've been farming a lot of T16s with basically doing like strong boxes and stuff, and you know, doing some kind of like Maven invitation farms, just testing it out and seeing how the build feels, like kind of over a wide variety of different content. I do think that it excels in the clear speed style ones, so Breach, Legion, strong boxes, those kind of things. And is not as good at, say, like more single target or like boss stuff, but it can still perform in those environments. It is a great league starter, so definitely we'll be keeping this build up to date, progressing forward. I may not always run it as the build I want to run for as a league starter, but I do really think this is a cool and interesting way of kind of changing up slams a little bit, and having basically a slam that can scale pretty well into the end game. Potentially, if you want to keep scaling it, you could totally do stuff like Ubers and stuff. But anyway, so in this video, we are going to just talk about some skill changes that I made, and if you want to do something similar, you can, and then talk a little bit about the skill tree and the clusters and stuff and kind of how I've progressed there. And then finally, the last bit, we'll talk about the gear upgrades and essentially just kind of give an overview of how I've crafted them. Not super like in depth or anything like that, just, hey, I did this, bought this thing, fractured this thing, essenced it, etc. So, but first, we're just going to knock out a quick, well, I say a quick, but a Maven real quick. Just to show off, you know, it at a bossing level, what it's like. So one thing you can do is having enduring cry in your offhand if you want to, so that you can get your endurance charges up a little bit faster. Obviously Maven has a kind of a wind up, so it takes a little bit, and like I said, it doesn't take too long to kind of just melt. I have to actually hit her. So that.
Stand still.
There we go. I'm like still kind of warming up here, so.
Pain will be returned tenfold. Space. Alive.
Yeah, I've definitely been farming a lot of Maven, just regular Mavens. The new skill gem is pretty nice, so. One thing to know on the like AoE is there are like little sweet spots where you can hit. Basically, you can shotgun with this skill. So hitting like here, probably like right there, would give a pretty good amount. Was it here? No. There we go. Okay. I guess I should focus on the fight just a little bit rather than yapping. So those in the middle. But yeah, you're just gonna take like chunks of her out.
Death made real. Resistance will be punished. Time contorts. Scary.
But yeah, on the brain, for instance, you can see that you can kind of get like 3 overlaps on there, which is really nice. So
My irritation is growing. Death will not be an escape.
come on, Maven. All right, we're going all the way around, apparently.
A cascade of pain.
Death made real.
Do what I say.
The other two thing is just to make sure your Trinity is working okay.
A
So
cascade of pain.
Resisting.
not too bad.
Reality bends. punishment inescapable.
Arrogant toy. This will not be an escape.
Oh. I didn't get a chance to give her an attack. That's okay. Are we gonna get an easy one? Really? Okay, not too bad.
Scurry.
Oh, oops. I ran into it. That's fine. We'll just pause over here and just wait it out. So,
A cascade of pain.
but yeah, nice thing about this build is it is pretty tanky, so you can, you know, just walk into some stuff and not care too much. Just kind of at a weird angle. I hate when she's down here, like,
Take this.
you know.
Stand still.
Like I said, not too bad really. So, oh well. Hey, we got lucky. We got to invert the rules. So, good job. All right. So, yeah, that was just showing off a little bit of a Maven. I feel like I've been able to do her for a while, but like I said, just making sure that having a little bit of content showing off the build is always good. So, but yeah. So first thing I want to talk about is some of the skills. One of the things that we did drop was Blood Rage, and this is one you can basically drop once you get mob mentality, or once your mob mentalities are starting to stack. So essentially you'll be able to pretty much keep up your frenzy charges with just that by itself, which is good. Obviously they can still fall off on occasion if you just get unlucky with your mob mentalities, but it's not that big a deal on slams. Like, having the attack speed is more of a just making the build feel comfy. But for example, if you have onslaught, you typically have a pretty good amount of just speed just through that, like with your attack speed. Still feels very good. Plus, Holy Hammer's attack base is like, you know, it's the highest most slams have. So just keep that in mind. So that's one of them. And then what we did instead is we're using Frost Bomb instead of the cast when damage, like with the cast when damage taken. That way we're getting cold exposure and we're getting the reduced life regen with it. We're also getting our lightning exposure on hit here. So both our cold and lightning exposure will be there. And then we're also pairing that on the tree with the elemental mastery so that everything is 18%. So lots of good stacking things there that just make the build feel really nice for cutting down on enemy resistances. So that was one of the big changes that I made recently, that I feel like was kind of a cool thing or a cool insight to this specific build. But yeah, and then the other thing too is on the helm. It's up to you kind of how you want to do this, but I did look for Blessed Call was one of them that I wanted to test out. So I did get Blessed Call on my Seismic Cry. And essentially what this does is whenever you war cry, it is also linked to all of them. So each of these have Blessed Call on them. So every war cry that I self-cast will create consecrated ground for 6 seconds. And essentially what this lets us do is on the tree as well, we can take this accuracy node here, which increases our the effective consecrated ground, and then on the top one up here, basically when you are on consecrated ground, you get 30% increased accuracy. So we can use this triple node here instead of coming down here for 5 nodes essentially for this accuracy mastery. You can still take this if you don't have Blessed Call or don't want to mess around with the consecrated ground stuff. Totally understand. It is still a good node because it increases your critical strike chance as well. So just keep that in mind as just another option. For this build setup, this is what we're going to be using. Of course, this setup, like coins, the skill coins could just not go core. It could just be something that they do for this league. So keeping that in mind, we may not do this in the future anyway. So, but that is a cool thing that I wanted to test, and it works really well on essentially anything that's not an Inquisitor. So, but yeah, other than that, we're doing the Rallying Cry Herald of Purity setup. So you typically do this more on like single target. You can still use Herald of Ash if you're just using it for mapping, just to get more explodey, just kind of like how we were doing with Sunder. So, but yeah, I think that's about everything for skills. I'm going to go ahead and hop into, actually one more thing I was going to talk about. So on your flasks, I typically like to do the Tri-Ellie flask. Typically I like to do this when I'm not going for spell suppress or any spell block. So you can do this setup just to make it feel comfy. If you want to, the increased critical strike chance here, you could drop this for, say, curse chance. So that's a very popular one as well on flasks. And then the kind of optional flask is your second one here. So I usually like to run Granite Flask. Regen is one of my favorite ones to craft on there. But you can, of course, use something like a Diamond Flask. You can, if you want to, use the Prismatic Tincture. The tinctures are a little bit kind of jank to use because we have such a low mana, so it's possible that you basically like use it. I'll just example real quick. So you like use it and then you like accidentally Warcry too much, and then like, you know, it goes down too quickly. But again, it's one of those things where like you can mess around with it some more and just see how it feels. So it is a very large damage increase, so just keep that in mind as well. But these are just options that you can use instead, depending on if you want to be more tanky or if you want to just blow up difficult mobs. So yeah, let's go ahead and hop over to our POB real quick. So on the tree, big things, we definitely got the elemental cluster stuff going, like we already talked about. If you want to, you can save a point, go up here and do Divine Wrath instead. It's just kind of up to you. For me, I was like, well, the way my points are, it just makes sense to do it that way. And then our first cluster jewel, I did get set up with Overlord. So this is definitely still a tricky cluster jewel to make. I happen to get Martial Prowess, which is something that is in the back, which is good. I believe Divine Smite, I think is what it's called, or Smite the Weak, I think is what it's called, is another one that you can get here. So one of the easiest ways to craft something like this would be to do an alt spam, and then get it up to 4 mods, and then essentially fracture the Overlord. Hopefully you really want to do this with like a 50-50, so getting 2 of the mods that you want, and then making a 50-50. That's probably the easiest way. You could also just buy an Overlord fracture for this melee. You can, if you want to skip Overlord, you can just put Fortify, you know, into your essentially on Holy Hammers. You could get it crafted with a Coin of Power. There's a lot of ways to get Fortify, so just keeping that in the mind. This, like I said, this is probably one of the more annoying crafts to do. I happen to get very lucky and somehow alted and then regaled into this, and I don't understand my luck with cluster jewels. So but yeah, that's how I was approaching the cluster jewel craft though. So yeah, and then the medium ones are pretty easy. Just go for mob mentality and then lead by example or warning call, on one for each, essentially, for the warning call on the lead by example. And then I'm still using the small cluster as well for the mana reservation on hatred. So the reservation stuff hasn't changed at all, still the same, which is good. I did go ahead and add a second cluster. We did go ahead and do the lightning cluster, kind of tested it out. Stormdrinker was the main node that I wanted from this one. It's like, it's fine. And also the Doriani's Lesson is good if you're doing, say, a non-slayer one where it's a little harder to get Leech's life. So you can do Doriani's and Stormdrinker. Stormdrinker is even better on ones that are doing like a lot of lightning damage or more lightning damage than, say, this build is. This build is still doing about a 50-50 split on lightning and lightning and cold, and does have a decent amount of fire still too. So but I like this cluster a lot. I think it's really cool, but it is not something that's necessary. You can, if you want to, kind of skip this, and you can basically go right here and do these staff nodes and do these 6. You can also go around the top here and do it that way too. So up to you. Essentially, the top ones are going to be additional accuracy. If that is something that you require. And then the other ones are more elemental penetration. So there's another kind of variation where you maybe come into here to do some block changing or block setups. I haven't really messed around with this too much, but that is just another option to keep in mind if you want to try to do a block setup. So, but yeah, I think that's about it on the tree. For cost-based stuff, I did take this note here as well. This makes it the cost of skills feel very good, very comfy paired with all of your different jewelry that has the minus, like the flat cost reduction. So, but yeah, cool. I think that's about it for that. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about gear and crafting and stuff. So the first thing I did kind of as one of my first crafts was getting the Stygian Vice essentially set up. You know, this one was, for me, I typically just spam Essences of Envy till I get, you know, a good life roll. This one happened to get another good resist and armor on it as well. I did craft probably like 15 to 20 of these, and then this was the best one that I got. So just keep that in mind. It's a pretty easy way to craft them. And then I went ahead and bought this eye jewel as well to get the shock effect. So the big thing right here with the Stygian Vice is getting the shock effect and then doing the boot craft to get the additional avoid shock. So for me, my initial goal was just to get shock avoidance, which, you know, worked out. But when I was farming the breach, the tree was very gracious to me and got me a Foulborn Storm Shroud. So essentially I am, you know, completely element immune or avoidant, which is really good. So with that, basically when you do all of that, you can then also drop Brine King and jump over to, say, Lunaris or Solaris, depending on what kind of content you're doing. So just also keep that in mind. So one of the cool things to do for tankiness. And then yeah, so after the belt, I basically went back, I did my boots after that, and then started messing around with some gloves. Essentially the gloves are going to be mostly focused on trying to get some resists. I unfortunately I was hoping for a double resist with accuracy, but didn't quite get that. So I might craft these again to try to get some more resist so I can drop some more nodes. But yeah, for your gloves, you're mostly looking for the conversion, which you can craft on, big life roll resistance. So nothing like too complicated here. And then on your implicits is kind of better. You get the critical strike chance and the exposure hits. So, and then let's see. Yeah, so the jewelry and stuff, on the amulet, again, this one for me is just a big stat stick. So I went ahead and bought one that had the all attributes as a fracture, and then basically just spammed it with the crit multi essence until I got something with some good life on there, and then crafted the non-channeling skills. So honestly a pretty easy one to do. And then kind of similar stuff for the rings. So with rings, I do harvest reroll on life typically. You can also do chaos res as well, depending on which one you're doing. So like with amethyst, I was doing reroll chaos till I got something that was good, and then vermilion I just did reroll life. But yeah, both of these I started off with a fractured one. So with the amethyst, I got the fractured life, and then with the vermilion, happened to find one that had the minimum power charge and the 3% chance to gain power charge on kill. So with something like this, because we have the new, basically June has the new like dropping veiled mod as fractured items and stuff, it is possible to get some really cool rings. So you could also do something where you get the non-channeling skills -10 total mana cost on there. If you got like 2 of those, it is possible we could maybe have some different variations with how we're dealing with our mana on, you know, like the war cries and on the tree and stuff. So just something else to keep in mind, but I still kind of want just a basic setup 778. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it on those. Let's see. So for jewels, I use the breach tree basically to try to fracture some like either life or to get the like this one here, crit strike, basically any crit strike multipliers. And then from there, you just do like Reforged Life or Reforged Crit on harvest rolls. So those were pretty easy to do. And then the last two things, so the body armor, the way I did this one was you basically start with the Essence of Horror to get the 10% reduced extra damage from crit. This is fractured as well. Basically, I tried crafting about 6 of these. I did hit the fracture quite a few times. And then from there, I used Essence of Dread to get the flat armor. Until I basically got 2 really nice increased armors. So you can do Exalt Slams on there. Yeah, and then from there, if you were to do it more in-depthly, you could basically reforge physical to get the additional physical damage reduction, and then craft on your last mod, which would be like, for me it was Fire and Chaos Res, but it could be whatever you need if it's more resistances or more attributes, stuff like that. So and then finally the staff. So for this one, if you're familiar with how to do recombinations with axes, essentially you try to get all of your prefixes. So you want increased physical, in the hybrid one, which is increased physical and accuracy, and then the flat physical. So you can shoot for, if you want to, you can shoot for all T1 mods. It does take a while to get all of those. I typically like to do T1 on the flat and then range from T1 to T3 on the other two. And then you basically will craft the flat with each of the different ones, and then you take those 2 sticks whenever you get them and merge them together and hope that you get all 3 mods on 1 stick. And then from there, you depending on what your suffixes are, you can basically craft on prefixes can't be changed, scour it, and then do craft with 3 mods, get attack speed and crit strike, and can call it a day. Like this staff I've been using, and it basically clears all the content. You know, besides Ubers, like we could min-max a little bit more for Ubers and stuff. I've been testing a little bit on Ubers, but it's not quite where I would like it to be, so just keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I think that's about it. I did go ahead and get a Watcher's Eye. These are kind of expensive as well. I paid 24 div, I believe, for it. So just keep that in mind, that it's somewhere between 20 and 30 div. If you're going for one of these, and you're just really getting the crit strike chance for the hatred to really increase the damage. But this isn't something you need to do. You can just get the physical damage converted to cold damage as hatred. That is plenty for the build as a league starter. Well, it'll let you farm a mage blood if you want to, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, I think that's about it. Again, if y'all have any questions about anything, please let me know. If you'd like to make any other in-depth videos about crafting anything, let me know about that too. And yeah, I think this will probably be my only other update video here. I might do one more talking about like mage blood, and if you want to do mage blood with it, but it's not required at all. So or if I do choose to like scale this into like an Uber version, what that looks like and stuff. So but yeah, again, I really enjoyed making this one, and I will be keeping it up to date in the leagues as we progress through the leagues. We might do some different variations where we do like a Berserker one this league or stuff like that, but essentially I would like to try to keep it about the same. So but yeah, let me know again how if y'all have any questions, and I will catch y'all in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.